Good morning, everyone. I'm State Senator Jeff Klein, and I'm so proud to be here today on this Saturday morning. And, of course, I want to thank, first and foremost, our Governor Cuomo. Governor Cuomo has made safety one of his premier issues, banning texting while driving, cracking down with serious penalties, and now what we're about to do today is certainly going to save lives. I also want to thank Aaron Charla Powers. Aaron is a very special person. I had the privilege of knowing his mom, Megan. Megan was a leader in the Bronx, and her life was taken because of a traffic fatality. I worked with Megan for years back in the 90s on lead paint poisoning. So I think we're really putting a very important face on this legislation. Someone who dedicated her life to a community was taken because of reckless driving. We're here today, I think, for a very simple truth. The first really mission of government is to protect the citizens. So today, I believe we're doing just that by cracking down on reckless driving throughout our city. You know, anywhere the New York City Department of Transportation statistics prove that cars are not only speeding past schools and high pedestrian areas, but drivers move at speeds shown to kill human beings at a high rate. Whenever you talk about traffic safety, you're constantly hearing in neighborhoods around our city that drivers are driving too fast. Every block that I walk on, my constituents constantly tell me we need more stop signs, we need more signage, we need more speed bumps. This is a call for safety, and I think what we're doing today is making a very, very important message to everyone that this is something we're going to take very seriously. Just in the way of background, one of the things we did in the legislature this year with the assistance of Mayor de Blasio and, of course, our governor, was really take traffic safety very seriously in the form of a program called Vision Zero. What we did earlier in the year was make sure that the City of New York was able to get an additional 120 speed cameras. These speed cameras are going to be located throughout areas around the city, mostly around schools, because believe it or not, when people enter a school zone, you would think they would have the common sense to slow down, but they're not. We've seen many studies that speeding around schools puts our young people's lives in jeopardy each and every day. Speed cameras are a proven fix for traffic fatalities. It's common sense. If people know there's a camera there and they get caught, they slow down. And the next time they think twice before hitting that accelerator. So that's the first step. But today we're here to announce a very important second step. Because under the leadership, as I said, of our governor, we passed legislation, which we're about to sign today, which allows the City Department of Transportation to reduce the speed limit to 25 miles per hour on all roadways where no signs are posted and where it is currently 30 miles an hour. To me, this is common sense legislation, and I think it's important because lowering the speed limit to 25 miles an hour dramatically reduces the chances of pedestrian car-related fatality to 1 in 10. So with the bill signing today, I think what we're saying is very simply, enough is enough. You know, our roadways on blocks in our neighborhoods are not speedways. They're places where people should be able to stroll safely, where our kids should be able to go to and from school. So I think this is something important. I think one important piece of this legislation, which I had the privilege of working on, is also making sure that our communities have input. Remember something, you're the first line of defense. You know your blocks, you know your roadways. So really allowing community boards and community organizations a say in this important process, I think makes this a much better law. So with this new law, we ensure that our drivers slow down, our pedestrians are protected, and our city puts public safety where it should be first. I want to thank you all very, very much for being here today. I'd now like to introduce a very, very special public servant. You know, over the years in public life, as an assemblyman and a state senator, when I hear from my neighbors, when I hear from the people in my community, most of the issues involve transportation. As I said before, everyone wants a stop sign, everyone wants a speed bump. And previous commissioners never had that hands-on approach. But our commissioner now, DOT Commissioner Polly Trottenberg, listens and learns from the community. I've seen her in my district so many times that I think everyone knows her on a first-name basis. She's a dedicated public servant, an outstanding transportation commissioner. It's my pleasure to introduce Department of Transportation Commissioner Polly Trottenberg.
This commissioner needs a step. Thank you, Senator Klein, for those kind words. And I really want to welcome everyone. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of Mayor de Blasio, welcome Governor Cuomo, co-leader Klein, other elected officials, members of Family for Safe Streets. It is really wonderful to have you here. Since taking office, as many of you know, Mayor de Blasio has made Vision Zero and the reduction of traffic fatalities a top priority. And at New York City DOT, we've made that one of our top priorities too. We're really committed to the mission of saving lives on the streets of New York. We can all stand here today and recognize this important moment in making New York streets safer. Governor Cuomo, we want to thank you for signing this bill. We also want to thank members of the state legislature and leadership in both houses for passing the legislation. I think they heard the voices of New Yorkers loud and clear. And I sense the personal commitments many of them had to this issue when I was up in Albany talking to them with some of the families and the folks who are here today. The legislature debated the bill, and I think we came up with a stronger law as a result. I also want to mention here in New York City the leaders on our city council, Speaker Mark Viverito, our transportation chairman Rodriguez, for their great leadership as well, and for their advocacy and passion on Vision Zero. We look forward to working with them to pass the local law that will be the companion to the bill the governor's signing today. And lastly, I want to give my heartfelt thanks, I know many of them well now, to the families who've lost loved ones. They've been heroic in their advocacy, they have been courageous, and they should really stand proud today for helping to make a new speed limit in New York City a reality. We all know that when you lower the speed limit, the chances of a person being killed is cut in half when you reduce the speed limit of the traveling vehicle from 30 to 25. So this legislation, just like our speed camera legislation and red light legislation, is going to help save lives. And I will pledge to you that when the implementation period starts, we're going to implement in a thoughtful and careful way in New York City, making sure that we're smart about how we do education and enforcement on our city streets. As the governor mentioned, as the senator mentioned, the default speed limit in the city will become 25. In some places it may be higher, in some places it may be lower, particularly around schools. And we'll be sure we're working hand in hand with the NYPD to do a smart education and enforcement campaign. So once again, on behalf of Mayor de Blasio, I want to thank everyone here, particularly the governor, co-leader Klein, and all our elected officials for helping to make this important goal and this important measure that will save lives in New York City a reality. I now want to call up someone that I've gotten to know well, Aaron Charlotte Powers, one of the key members of Families for Safe Streets, who lost his mother in a tragic crash, and I know he's going to have some good words for us. So Aaron, come on up.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Charlotte Powers, and I'm here on behalf of Families for Safe Streets. I'd like to thank the Commissioner, Senator Klein, the Governor, Councilmember Rodriguez for having us here this morning. 4 years ago, my mother was hit and killed riding her bicycle in the Bronx. Families for Safe Streets is comprised of people like me who have received that dreaded phone call, the phone call that have changed our lives forever. Amy about her son Sammy in Brooklyn, Shipe and Amy about their daughter in Queens, Joy about her darling Renee in the Bronx, Debbie and Harold. There's more people than we can name this morning. And we're trying hard to turn our grief, our anger, our sadness, and our frustration into action so that no one else suffers the same. So that not one more person is killed in traffic on the streets of New York City. We, along with thousands of New Yorkers, hospitals, businesses, faith-based institutions, and community groups, some of whom have joined us this morning, support this bill. And it's heartening. It's a step in the right direction. It will directly address a serial killer on New York City streets, speeding cars. But we're not here to celebrate. We're here to make clear to the elected officials in New York City and to Albany that our work is just beginning, and that we look forward to your continued dedication and leadership to make our streets safe. We ask that you remember this morning when you face opposition in a community, or when your colleague pressures you for an exception in their district. We ask that you remember this morning when someone on your staff tells you that a change for safety will be difficult or unadvisable. We're here to continue to urge our elected officials to further demonstrate leadership, courage, and imagination, because it won't be easy, but that's what it will take to translate this law and others into meaningful change on the city's streets. If we from Families for Safe Streets can stand up and do this work, so can you. If we can face opposition, then so can you. And we will continue to be here to hold people accountable for the work of getting this bill implemented and enforced on the streets so that we reduce speeding, reduce crashes, and reduce killings in New York City. We need speed cameras, we need streets redesigned, we need consistent enforcement by the NYPD, and we need leadership and dedication from all of our elected officials. Lastly, I want to remind all of you of what failure looks like. The fact that our group's membership grows is a failure. The fact that our streets are not safe for pedestrians, cyclists, or drivers is a failure. Failure is waiting for someone to be killed to reduce the speed limit or redesign the intersection. Failure is my mother being run over and the bike lane being painted on the street a week after. This morning is a step in the right direction and a very important one. But again, we are not here to celebrate. We are here to say thank you, to acknowledge and appreciate the work that's been done to pass this law, and to remind everyone of the work ahead. It won't be easy, but we cannot fail. We must succeed. Thank you very much to Senator Klein and Assemblyman Danny O'Donnell for sponsoring this bill and getting it passed this session. We'd like to thank Mayor de Blasio and Commissioner Trottenberg for their commitment and leadership on this issue, as well as the City Council and Assemblyman Rodriguez. We'd like to thank Transportation Alternatives for their advocacy and leadership on this issue. And lastly, Governor, I would like to say we hope you never join our group. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the state's Governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. First to Aaron Charlotte Powers and all the families who are here today who lost a loved one. You are in our thoughts and in our prayers. As Aaron said, it's unfortunate that sometimes we have to lose a life for society to recognize what we should have recognized with common sense. But I'm sure everyone here applauds you in taking your pain and your grief and turning it into a positive. And rather than making it a negative, you've actually made things better for society and for others so that other people don't have to go through what you went through. And for that selflessness, we all applaud you. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Senator Jeff Klein, who has once again shown his ability to get a bill passed in Albany and get it done in record time. It's not always the easiest thing, getting legislation passed in Albany. But Senator Jeff Klein is a member of the Senate leadership, and he has been a tremendous asset, not just for his district, but for all across the state. Albany has been working much better in the past 4 years than it has before. We're passing budgets on time. We're getting things done. We're getting laws passed. And when government works, good things happen. And today is an example of it. So let's give him a round of applause, Senator Jeff Klein. to Polly Trottenberg, who's a great public official. She's now the New York City Department of Transportation Commissioner. Before that, she was in Washington, D.C., and she was a great friend to us when we were rebuilding from Hurricane Sandy, and we needed help in New York City and across the state, and Polly was there for us. So welcome back, and congratulations on your position. Now, to Councilman Adonis Rodriguez, the baton is now passed to him. The state passed the law, and the councilman is going to be responsible for getting it passed in New York City, and I'm sure he's going to get it done in record time. That's what I believe. Let's give him a round of applause, Councilman Adonis Rodriguez. From the previous speakers, you've heard all the wisdom of today. The fundamental role of government is to try to make things better for people, to try to help change society, to try to help people. And public safety is right up at the top, right? And public safety and saving lives on our roads and traffic is right up at the top. As Senator Klein mentioned, we do a lot of work in this area. We're doing a lot of work now on texting while driving, which sounds like an obscure area, but it is a crisis in this state. We have young drivers becoming of age, and they were raised and they were born with an electronic device attached to their body, I think. I think they were hardwired into the iPhone or into the BlackBerry. And amazingly, we now lose more young people and have more traffic injuries from driving while texting than from driving while drinking. And we spent so many years trying to say to people, don't drink and drive, and campaigns and millions of dollars spent. And now texting while driving has actually become a greater problem than drinking while driving for younger people. So we've spent a lot of time doing that. The speed cameras make total sense. We're putting them all across the state. You're in a school zone. Slow down. If it's a school zone means children. It means there's a possibility a child could dart out from between the cars. Slow down. But sometimes you need government, you need a reminder, you need a sign to bring a little common sense back to you. And that's what speed cameras are that we're putting together all across the state. And this proposal just makes a tremendous amount of sense. New Yorkers are fast. New Yorkers like to do things fast. Everything is time. Everything is pressure in New York. But this says slow down and save a life. Slow down and save a life. The statistics are frightening here. New York City has a crisis when it comes to pedestrian deaths. The number of deaths in New York City are much higher than the national average. Frighteningly so. 176 people last year were lost. And the differential between an accident at 30 miles an hour versus 25 miles an hour is double the rate, double the likelihood that you can be killed at 30 miles an hour than 25 miles an hour. So this law says New York City has the right to reduce the default speed limit down to 25 miles an hour. Of course, the decisions have to be made community by community. It makes sense in some places. It doesn't make sense in other places. Consulting the community boards are important, so they have input. But overall, this is a law that is literally going to save people, and I have no doubt about that. Mayor Bill de Blasio, who couldn't be with us today because of a scheduling conflict, but I've known him for many, many years. He got elected mayor with one very simple point in mind, which is to make New York City better and to help people. And this Vision Zero plan that the mayor's put forth and Commissioner Trottenberg, this does just that. We will change this law. It will make the city a safer city. It will save lives, and that's what government is all about. So I commend the mayor for his vision. I commend Commissioner Trottenberg for her vision of putting together the plan. Councilman Adonis, get it passed. Senator Jeff Klein did his work on the state side. On the state side, let's sign the bill, and let's get to about the business of saving lives and making New York City safer. Thank you. Let's give him a round of applause.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming today. Thank you very much for giving up part of your Saturday, but we did some good work here today. Thank you all.